So, on the 24th of August, 2022, the Oriental Journal of Chemistry, International Research Journal of Pure and Applied Chemistry, it states the pteridine-a, colored-heterocycle-and its anti-cancer activity. Well, why is it an anti-cancer? It's because it happens to be one of those neurotransmitters, hormone neurotransmitters, that is an antioxidant. And pteridine is just like vitamin B4 and caffeine, the structure of it. It's very simple. So, and we can find this as the ribosyl phosphate here in the cobalamin. Benefits of B12 supplementation: can increase B12 levels to treat a deficiency, can reduce homocysteine levels, may benefit those with depression because it supports brain health. Now, just remember this one, the caffeine B4 part of the Corin ring system of cobalamin. It is called ribosyl phosphate. So think ribbit as your associative memory. Ribbit, ribo, right? Ribosyl phosphate. And its general shape looks like a frog if you look at it. Like the two ends were eyes and CH was a leg, Anyway, ribosyl phosphate is essentially where all the narcotics, which are still our hormones and neurotransmitters, that's how we get through one carbon metabolism of methylation and folate cycles that consistently break down our vitamin B12 into folate. And here you can see that the ribosyl phosphate is just like the indole or the tryptamine or serotonin, DMT, because these are all similar, psilocybin and psilocybin, which are, narcotics. Amphetamine has a stimulant effect of boosting your energy, much like caffeine does. However, if you look at the structure, the exact opposite of it that goes along with it as a balance is dopamine, which essentially, relaxes you, puts you to sleep, it comforts you. And here we also have norepinephrine, which is similar to dopamine, actually, but with an extra OH on the second ring. So they're all related. They all do just about similar things. And when you invert them, you get the opposites, like amphetamine and dopamine. And then there's tryptamine, which it goes along with the indole and the serotonin, DMT, psilocin, and psilocybin, which we generally think are like hallucinogenics. But amphetamine, to remember amphetamine and methamphetamine, think amphibian. Amphibian, like the ribosyl phosphates, as a frog. The MDMA and MDA are very similar, like catecholamine and methacatenine. So methacatenine probably being a stronger catecholamine when we look at amphetamine and methamphetamine. To remember methamphetamine, just think med-amphibian. And the flavin structure is one of the most popular, and folic acid, because these are both vitamin B vitamins. The structure of neurotransmitters, structure key: carbon atom, hydrogen atom, oxygen atom, nitrogen atom, and the rest of the molecule. Adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, acetylcholine, glutamate, endorphins. So essentially, these are the structures of neurotransmitters. If we look at them, yes, they're just like the ribosyl phosphate structures. They're chemical structures. So we got glutamate, histamine, aminobutyric, serotonin, acetylcholine, taurine, glycine, dopamine, adrenaline, norepinephrine. Neurotransmitters and hormones, they're basically the same thing, but sometimes they can be different. But for the most part, we use hormone neurotransmitters. Like, meet your happy chemicals of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphin, which are hormones, which are neurotransmitters. And they help us feel good, When you see something good for you, your brain releases chemicals that feel good. Dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, serotonin all play a role in giving you that good feeling. Meet your happy chemicals. Dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and serotonin, and different levels are always playing a factor in your thoughts, how you feel about things, because whatever turned on your chemicals in the past built pathways that turn them on today. When you see something good for you, your brain releases chemicals that feel good, like dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, and serotonin, which play a vital role in so many different feelings, emotions, and sensations, and thoughts as well. Natural selection built a brain that makes you feel good when you do things that promote your genes. The endocrine system, essentials of human anatomy and physiology, is the introduction to anatomy and physiology, the endocrine system. The endocrine system controls many body functions, exerts control by releasing hormones into the bloodstream that are then delivered to cells. Hormones aid in cell communication and help regulate cell function. Hormones affect other endocrine glands or body systems. Works with the nervous system. Hormones can promote or inhibit nerve impulses. The endocrine system, chemical messages, which are hormones, are released into the blood. Hormones control several major processes: reproduction, gametogenesis, sexual desire, growth and development, maintenance of homeostasis, salt, water, blood pressure, RBCs, regulation of metabolism, digestion, stress responses. The endocrine system is a collection of glands of an organism that secrete hormones to regulate your metabolism, chemical reactions, water balance, reproductive function, and your body's growth and development. Includes all endocrine cells and tissues of the body. Hormones that affect blood sugar are in the pancreas here, and the right and left kidney have a right and left adrenal gland, which the cortex is the exterior of, and the medulla is the center. And suprarenal glands divide into two parts, each with separate functions: suprarenal cortex and suprarenal medulla. The adrenal gland has a medulla in the middle and a cortex on the outside, and the adrenal gland is on your kidney. The exocrine and endocrine glands. The difference between endocrine and exocrine glands is endocrine glands, the hormones secreted into the blood in the capillaries mixed together. Exocrine glands, the chemical secretes from the skin surface, and it's produced by chemicals produced in the gland deep below. And the excretions of human glands come as sweat or sebaceous. Sweat, you have eccrine and apocrine. The eccrine sweat is made of salt water, proteins, amino acid, urea, lactic acid, whereas the apocrine sweat contains water, lipids, proteins, pheromones, whereas the subcutaneous it makes sebum, which is lipids or dead lipid cells. That's like greasy skin, like oily skin. Locations of the endocrine glands, what they secrete. The eye secrete tears, the mouth secretes saliva, skin will secrete sweat and sebum, breast will secrete milk, liver will secrete bile, pancreas will secrete juices, intestines will secrete mucus, and the stomach secretes enzymes. Pheromone versus no pheromone with laboratory rats and wild brown rats. The laboratory rats with no pheromone experience a freezing and a stormy thoughts that is very distressful, while wild brown rats experience neophobia and strange thoughts. Whereas when a pleasing pheromone in Radis nogus 2-methylbutyric acid, its amelioration of fear response is appeasing pheromones, gives rest, as well causes them to look for food and find it. So they're always smelling each other, to read their minds, to know what they're feeling, to know what they're thinking, how they express, because it's going to tell you, because that's how we all communicate. And we can experience what they're feeling, what they're thinking, whether it's going to be a fight, if it's going to be a sexual encounter, or if it's what it is. If you're going to win the fight, if say danger is imminent and you're going to get swallowed up by a big toad, you might want to get out of the way, or if it's a snake, But essentially the mice and rat, they breathe in the pheromone through the verminasal organ, which brings it to the main olfactory epithelium and the main olfactory bulb, and the accessory olfactory bulb, which the orbital plate, it has the mitral cells and the glomeruli and the olfactory sensory neurons. As well, in the main olfactory, we have the blood responses of the verminasal sensory neurons and the lumen. So when a cat is smelling a mouse, again, it's reading the pheromones, it's communicating, It just, it's the way of how we all communicate. And the mouse looks pretty scared here. When ESP1, the MPA, into the MEAPV, it may show aggressive behavior. Or if it were to, the amygdala switches the route of info of an ESP1 into a VMHD MEAPV, and it promotes either sexual behavior, or if it's a predator, it's a defensive behavior. The defensive behavior is usually fight or flight, and in a lot of the cases it means run. But as we can see, sometimes they put up a fight instead. Glands in our body secrete a clear liquid that contains pheromones too. Our pheromones scent reaches the noses of men and women. 3. The olfactory system, starting with the nose, bypasses the rational brain. This information is fed directly to the behavior center of the brain. If the information communicated by our pheromone scent is positive, then a sexual response may be observed. Hypothalamus, the olfactory tract, the olfactory nerves, and the verminasal organ. Pheromones gets picked up by the verminasal organ. When in the verminasal organ, the olfactory nerves react and send signals along the olfactory tract to the hypothalamus. Autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, the defense, the expression, the excitement, the emergency, and the embarrassment come in your sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system, it runs connections through all of your organs and body parts. Like nerves, it sends signals to the cell, like norepinephrine to the adrenergic receptors, or the acetylcholine to the nicotinic receptors. The action potential propagation in unmediated neurons is a pumping action with a singular burst of Na through the electrical charges. The action potential propagation in myelinated neurons seems like a 4-stage pumping, where one gets past the other, and then it slowly depletes. The central nervous system picks up signals and sends signals through the peripheral nervous system, and the brain through the spinal cord, and the nerves to the rest of the body. So we can feel things when we're touched, and we can feel things when we touch things. So our nervous system and our brain, it makes our entire body a thinking organism, which is aware and plays a role in many different parts, because the brain doesn't just end inside the skull. Its extension is the nervous systems and the route of neurons that get sent in the signaling. So when a hormone reacted by a pheromone like, say, acetylcholine will fill up the reaction of the sodium nitrate, that when the sodium gets dispersed into the nitrates, then the neurons get fired. And neuron zones mainly are 4 neuron important zones, are the muscle fiber, the medvis, and the dendritic zone. Cystone cell body, which is connected to the axon hillock and the axon and the dendrites. So the cell body, the cell's life support center, and the dendrites receive messages from other cells. The axon passes messages away from the cell body to other neurons, muscles, and glands. Neuron impulses, electrical signal traveling down the axon through a myelin sheath covers the axon of some neurons and helps feed neuron impulses. Terminal branches of axon form junctions with other cells. As these reactions are being sent through the nervous system, they travel, passing many times. One will react another, to react another, to react another. Domino effect is in place where these signals trigger other signals. And this is why we need neurotransmitters out of our vitamins when we are getting nutrients out of the food that we eat. And that's why I was calling some of those neurotransmitters narcotics, just because they are, and that is what a neurotransmitter is. It helps you function. It's supposed to be provided when the 1-carbon metabolism of the methylation and folate cycles, which are breaking down cobalamin B12 into B2 or B9 folate in the cycle of folate cycles. So these impulses, sending signals, are communication. It is not just words, because pollen, for instance, is just like pheromone. It travels from the originating source and it communicates with the recipient. And this is how plants are aware of each other, and they communicate with each other because they work together. And it's just like how our pollinators move the pollen around, and spores as well. The transfer of spores, it communicates on a level like the pollen and like the pheromones, though slightly different. If the butterflies used to pollinate the angiosperms back in the end of the Jurassic period and the Cretaceous, that would mean the angiosperms that were caffeinated, like erythroxylum. It was originally the cocaine plant. So the pollen would have like cocaine or caffeine in it, giving you abundance of energy in life, feeling alive, and it would really promote putting a spring in your step, as giving you a jump on things and whatnot. Caffeine and pollen. Now, plenty of other plants have caffeine, even the holly bushes. However, be warned of the poppies, because the poppies as well are just like the little yellow buttercups, a very, very strong sedative. That's in this case, little poppies make opium, and the buttercup, little thing, it contains another heavy-duty sedative. Now, the angiosperms of the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods were pollinated by the butterflies. And the butterflies, because the flowers are called angiosperms, the butterflies are referred to as the angels, because they are angelic after all. And the pollen and the nectar that they fed off of to survive also was survival for the plants. And pheromones get played in this as well, because it is about survival. It is about communication, where a female would communicate through pheromone autodetection. The autodetectors of responders or non-responders. The non-responders are non-observed, whereas responders, either a repellent dispersal to defend yourself, or the aggression one to fight your foe, or make your breakfast, I guess, if you're killing to eat, or other behaviors include sexuality and attraction, or even fear, your own fear, putting that on. So pheromone autodetection of most moths or ants or bees or butterflies, all of the fish, all of the vermin, all of the animals, basically everything has a pheromone autodetection. And you can identify people, you can identify certain things, you can identify by autodetection.